take a minute while we connect with Supervisor Guglielmi. He's not able to be here today, but he will be with us by phone. We think he'll be with us by phone.
It's worked yesterday.
Remind it on the phone.
Just a reminder of all of you in the audience, so please turn off any cell phones that you have.
Calls will not be answered.
No, that wasn't yesterday.
Calls will be answered. Calls will not be answered.
There was just a second.
Calls will be answered.
What is the number here? Oh, call me here.
You're speaking on yourself? I was speaking on myself. Maybe before.
Problems? All this stuff in.
Calls will not be answered.
Yeah. I'm sorry, this doesn't work yesterday.
I don't know what this is. I have a speaker on my cell. Would that work?
No.
Calls will be answered.
Do we have any backup phone?
Calls will not be
No, this worked yesterday. Yeah, I got the number.
I don't know if that'll work because it's put a lot of things by the microphone. It's a speaker phone.
Yeah, maybe it's interfered.
Hang on a minute, I'll be good. What's his number?
Calls will not be answered.
Hang on. Trying to figure this damn thing out.
Calls will be answered.
Not getting it down, so.
Plug in.
Here's right. It is.
You have a problem?
No, we had the phone code people out here and it all working. Everything was fine.
We have the line, but it's saying it's restricted when we try and call Canada. Yeah, only
Hey, Jane?
Yeah.
Go ahead and dial the number. Where you are, go ahead and dial it.
It's going through.
No, it's working in the back. Line's confused. What's happening is, see, we were just picking up her call. So I think if she dials off that number, we'll pick up here.
She's not dialing.
Jane, dial him on that phone. No, back there, dial him on that phone. Okay. It's coming through on this phone. Well, I was listening to your phone call with Liliana.
I know, it's
Gotcha. Valid right there to see if it's working.
I can't remember what we did, but I know
Gene called in.
I called in.
And we just put the phone by the microphone.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Well, we have this.
Somebody called Frank on another
Yeah.
phone.
No, she's calling him right now on that phone. I was just listening to her call with Ileana off that phone. So if she calls Frank on that phone, we should be able to hear here.
You get long distance on him and him
Good.
to call out?
He just said it's restricted.
It's a local number, local cell phone.
Oh.
Hey.
Oh, you're fine.
Oh, all right. That'll work over here.
What a great way to start a meeting.
Wonders of technology when they don't work.
My computer.
What happened
Not like
to
Spider-Man, $50 million.
Someday we'll get to the...
Coming back.
That's Frank talking. Is he a different time zone?
Yeah, I got it.
Leave a message. Ask him to
Is
call.
he up there for family illness? Oh, I thought it was somebody was sick.
Oh, thank you.
Somebody said somebody's sister.
Hello? Good morning. I've got you on cell phone on speaker here at the meeting.
Stay right there.
I can hear you. Say something one more time.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
There you go.
Okay, I guess we're ready. First, let me introduce Mr. Jim Lobozo. Mr. Lobozo is John McClure's partner. John, as you know, is our district attorney, and Mr. Lobozo will be sitting in for him. Okay, as you know, this is a special meeting. Consider renovation of the Deer Run Greens. As such, there'll be no discussion of any other subjects. It'll be strictly limited to that particular item. Procedures, we have 3 resolutions to consider. For each resolution, we will have a presentation or an overview from district staff and or Kitson staff on that particular subject. We will then have board discussion, board questions, which will be addressed to, again, the staff. And at the end of the board discussion, we will have public comment. Regarding public comment, we're going to have a clock of 5 minutes. And there won't be a 3-minute plus a 2-minute. There'll be an absolute time limit of 5 minutes for everybody that wants to speak on that particular subject. Unless you're confessing to a murder, that 5 o'clock is, or 5 minutes is done. We'll have at least time for everybody that wants to speak. For a particular resolution, you only come to the podium one time. Please give your name and then state your subject. After that, we'll bring it back to the board. The board will vote on that particular resolution. We'll repeat the same process for the next 2 resolutions. The last meeting we had on golf, I thought went fairly well. It was a civil discussion, and I hope that we have the same environment today. So with that, we'll consider the first resolution, which is Resolution 1112. Resolution of Sun and Lake of Sebring Improvement District to approve the budget for renovations to the Deer Run Golf Course greens. Mike?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. President, as you pointed out, we actually have 3 items today, and we took them in this particular order because it's necessary to establish a budget before you can award a bid. At the prior meeting, the board directed us to go out and solicit bids for the renovation of the earthwork, if you will, for the greens, as well as to seek other bids as necessary to renovate the greens on Deer Run. We have 2 bid openings on this agenda, or 2 bids to be considered at this agenda, and should those be approved, there will be 2 additional bids that will be on the 29th. The bids on the 29th are for fumigation and for sod that is used outside the greens area but connects to the greens. We felt like that those are items that could wait
Mike,
until the next meeting.
will those 2 items you mentioned be included in your budget discussion today?
Yes, sir. In meeting with the Kitson folks last week, we tried to establish a budget that would pay for all the cost. And by separate cover, you've been provided that budget, or you have that budget, which basically outlines up to $225,000, which is broken down into various components, including the earthwork, sole source procurement on the turf, and other miscellaneous bids. In talking with Mr. Wonderling, he feels like this will be adequate. You do have bids in your package right now that basically account for $146,000 of the $225,000 that's budgeted. And he feels fairly confident the other items will come in as expected. In order to pay for this at this particular time, it's necessary to go in and take the money from the reserve accounts. That's how you cash flow it. Now, whether or not you replace the money into the reserve account is a decision that you'll have to make probably at a subsequent meeting. We provided, the staff provided...
Excuse me, Mike. That meeting, that'll come during the budget development process?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. We've actually provided you, I believe, 7 alternatives, up to 7, and there are probably others that weren't considered for paying for this. What we're recommending you do at this particular time is you change the internal rate of return on the loans that you have that you took out to build the pool complex and the golf clubhouse. Right now, we're paying ourselves 5% interest in repaying the money that we borrowed. What I'm suggesting is we go back and change that interest to something more realistic, that which is 0.3%, which is approximately what we're receiving in the investment of our idle funds at this time. In other words, what you would do, instead of paying the higher rate, you would pay a rate that would be commensurate with what you would get if you just invested the money and didn't have a loan. If you take the money that will be saved by that conversion over the next 6 months of this fiscal year and the next 2 fiscal years, that will generate about $140,000. We're also recommending that at a subsequent meeting you increase the non-member rounds or cost per round by $1, which will generate about $50,000 over 2 years. And we're recommending that you increase the membership assessment's not the right word, membership fees by $100 for 2 years, which will generate $52,000. Add all 3 of those together, and you come up with about $243,000, which exceeds the budget by about $18,000, which should be more than adequate money to pay for the renovations. That's our recommendation. I know in talking with you individually, a number of you have other ideas on how to pay for this, and I believe you've been supplied with any information that you've requested under separate cover. That's our recommendation today. It's really up to the board to direct us on how you would like to proceed. Okay. Today we're asking you to adopt a budget, which will allow us to award the bids should that be your choosing.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Ron, do you have anything to add? Okay. Frank, have you heard all this?
I heard most of it, but it's kind of broken up. I'm just wondering if we can make this call on the landline. I have access to a line here in my sister's house. Could we call 1-905-735-4328? Because I can hear you very well, but I heard pieces of what Michael was saying, but not all of it. It was difficult to hear Michael.
Well, we had a bit of a problem just getting to you in the first place.
Well, okay, let's proceed then as best as we can. I can hear you very well, so if I have any particular question, I'll ask you, okay?
Okay, fine, Frank.
Okay, thank you.
We're now going to have discussion by the board, and you might just as well lead off.
We got to make a motion to approve.
Yes, we do, don't we?
Okay.
I'll make a motion. We approve Resolution 1112.
Have a second? I'll second it.
Okay.
Now.
Now. Okay. I've got a lot to say here, and I'll try to run through it pretty quick. I've been getting a lot of advice lately, and finally it's my turn to talk. We got one main issue here, and it's the greens on Deer Run. They're broken. They need to be replaced. Kitson told us when they were hired that they weren't any good. They've been putting Band-Aids on them ever since. If they're not replaced, it's going to have a negative impact on our ability to attract new members, new residents, damage the potential to increase our tax base, outside play, and the ability to preserve and attract tournaments. I want to read one thing that come out of Christie's suggestion box. This is from a gentleman by the name of Scott Silverson. He's a visitor, and the comments are about the golf course. And he says, worst experience I've had on a golf course in a long time. We were supposed to play Turtle Run and got pushed to Deer Run. The course was unplayable. We came from Kenilworth with 20 players. Okay, that's the kind of input we're getting from the outside plays and the members as well. In my opinion, the district's responsible for maintaining the golf courses, not the annual pass holder. The annual pass holder, although they're willing to pay more, shouldn't be penalized because the golf course needs maintenance. Member rates should be a separate issue and not a part of the resolution, as shown in Exhibit A of this resolution. It should be based upon comparative fees charged by other courses in the area, and as should daily fees. If rates are too low, they should be adjusted accordingly and at the proper time. I'm not going to be willing to support any resolution that ties the green renovation to a pass holder fee. That needs to be looked at on its own merit. Now, I don't know, I guess we're going to all talk about it here, but I think we need to modify this resolution and pick one of the other options. I mean, I'm open for any other option that doesn't connect this thing to any pass holder increase at this point in time. At this point, that's all I've got to say.
Mike, didn't you say that we were talking about reserves at this point in time to establish a budget, and we would address the further questions? Although, Ron, you can, I believe, raise outsider play fees at any time. Is that correct?
Without, we can go under what the board has established. I cannot raise fees from what the board established during the budgetary process.
Yeah, there's a mic right there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Ron Wunderling from Kitson Partners for the record. In regards to the rate structure, during the budgetary process, the board adopts rates. We're able to discount those rates, but I can't charge any more. So
is that for outside? I'm talking just about outside play. I'm not talking about member fees.
Now, what we could do with it's legal in our establishment is our discounted rates. Let's say we charge $39. I could charge $40 because the public established rate is $50 in season. And then we're going to off season. monies in. So your point, we can go up $1 on our outside guest rates.
So that's your option.
It is an option we can, go into
Well,
effect.
that's all I wanted to know. Frank, do you have comments?
I guess the only comment I have, I agree with Supervisor Hallbig, okay? A number of documents state very clearly that golf course is an amenity of the district, and any maintenance that needs to be done comes out of the district funds. Just like a building, if a roof falls in on a building, we don't go out to the membership or to the general public and ask for handouts. We go to the general fund. We are solvent. We have a very good financial position. So let's repair the problem, and the money will come in because we have an amenity that's better than anything else around here. And we're getting a lousy reputation right now, and that's the last thing that we want to do. So let's repair. Let's start talking about nickels and dimes, okay? Let's take care of one of the main amenities in the community. That's all I've got to say.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Other board comments?
Yeah, I would say that I, too, agree with the other two supervisors in that I believe that the money should come from the monies that are available. And in particular, the reasons I feel that way is it's just a straightforward, transparent approach to what we're going to spend. If it's $225,000, we're already determining that we will save $143,000 on the loan, and as time goes by, we'll continue to save money, and that'll pay for it. The money's got to come from the general fund no matter what we do, unless we increase fees on members, and I tend to agree. There's risk involved in that. There's risk involved in raising the fee $1. We may lose business, people will go to other courses, and there's risk involved in the $100 assessment on the members. There are some members that probably won't join, so I'm not so sure that by doing that we're really gaining a whole lot. And the money's there. It is an amenity for everyone. It should be shared by everyone. I don't think it's going to put a difficult burden on the district budget or the district's monies. We've done a good job up until now managing those monies and looking at every issue. So my preference would be just to pay for it from the monies we have available. And I, too, like Supervisor Hallbig. And the other thing is, we're not guaranteed because of this. I, too, like Supervisor Hallbig, will not support that when it comes up in budget. So the money's got to come from somewhere. And apparently we've got three of us right now, it appears, that feel that way. So, and it may change. But there's no guarantee that this board's going to pass that additional assessment on the members and the dollar increase. So I think we deal with it now. We deal at a point in time, and that's where we are, and that's what we do.
Just a couple of comments. I certainly agree that the greens need to be refurbished, worked on, and it is an amenity that is conducive to people buying in here and living here and enjoying all the amenities that we have. My concern about taking the money from any additional fees to the members, I feel strongly that maybe we shouldn't do that. I mean, if we have the money to do it in the budget, or it's going to be put into the budget, I think it should come from the budget. One of the major concerns that I have with proceeding with this is the timeline that we're facing right now. Looking through the contract, it really states that if these sprigs do not work, they have 20 days. If they don't work within 20 days, after 20 days, they'll be replaced. My concern is we only have a 5-day window in which to get these greens in order for the big 2 tournaments we have coming up. If for some reason the 20 days take effect, we're going to be 4 times as late for that date that we have to have it ready.
Gee, excuse me, I think we're jumping ahead a little bit. We're just talking about the budget right now.
Okay.
So,
Well, based on, going back to that is, I don't think we should charge the members anymore. I think we're going to lose people. We've lost people because of going up $1.
Ron, the only question I have on the budget is, are you comfortable with this figure of 225? 243. Well, 243. There's an overrun of 18 there.
I am. The one unknown factor was the bids that were opened yesterday in regards to the construction. We have a firm price on the fumigation. We know where the Celebration sod's going to come in within a couple pennies, depending on what companies respond to the bid that's currently out, that's due back next Wednesday. So I would say that the budget that Michael Wright and myself put together will take care of this project.
Well, the last thing we need is any more unpleasant surprises in our projects.
I agree.
Okay, so you're good with that, Dave?
Yeah. Let me ask a question. If we're going to amend, right now the resolution has Exhibit A in it. If we're going to amend the resolution before we have public discussion, do we do that before we have public discussion? That way it'll keep the public discussion happening again.
Yes.
When it comes back to us and we amend it.
Yes.
So I'm going to propose that we amend the Exhibit A by just saying we pick option 4, which is taking the money out of the general fund, and we'll figure out how to do that.
Let me suggest this.
Other stuff later.
If that's your desire, let me suggest this. In the 7th whereas clause, you strike "and more fully described in the attached Exhibit A," and you substitute "district general fund reserves." And in item 2 below, you strike Exhibit A and you insert general fund reserves. And that will basically take the money out of the reserve accounts.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we amend the resolution as described by Michael.
You withdraw the prior motion.
Pardon?
There's already a motion on the table, so
you withdraw your motion.
Okay, I got to withdraw. Got to withdraw the original motion,
and I'll withdraw the second on that.
And then go ahead and make a new motion to adopt the amended.
Okay, I make a motion we adopt the amended resolution as described by Michael for Resolution 1112 for the funding portion of the green renovation.
And that will be in the amount of $225,000.
Okay.
Because that's the budget.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion from the board? Okay, we'll open it up for public discussion. Okay, we'll bring it back to the board.
Joe Eck for the record. Thank you, golf members, for being here, because this concerns you more than anybody. But it also concerns the general public as well, because it's funds you're talking about that belong to the general fund, that everybody belongs to. And if you go to the rainy day fund, is what I call it, and start out of that, and then you're going to go ahead and talk us into the regular budget session, are we still going to go back in and try and change the percentage of being paid back to ourselves in those loans, or what?
I don't think there's much complaint about that, but yes, as we said before, we'll address those two items at a later date. I don't know if we can do that now, Mike, or that should come to the budget process, shouldn't it?
No, what I'll do on the interest calculation, I'm going to bring you that as a separate resolution.
Okay.
I think that's something we should do anyway.
That's still in the works, Joe.
Okay, that's the main thing I wanted to find out. Thank you.
Bill Jackson, resident. Back during when we were trying to make some changes in the board, I worked for 3 members up there, and a lot of other people did too, to get them elected to this board. I never...
Bill, excuse me, we're having a hard time hearing you up here.
Sure. I helped elect, along with many other people, 3 members of that board. I never expected anything from it, except that they would act in the best interest of the district. If we check back into this, and the emails, I have them here, Kitson recommended we not do this on Deer Run. Their agronomist did. And until they got a letter from email from Mr. Halbig, they were not for it. They even sent a compromise letter in on the 7th. Well, this has to do with the whole thing.
Well, I think your comments would be better set as the next resolution, which is talking about the actual contract.
Well, I'm going to have no more comment the rest of the day if I can just get this done. So I can do it later, or I can do it now.
I prefer you do it at that time.
Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment on the budget? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Frank, any further comments?
No. I made my comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll call the roll then.
Supervisor Guglielmi?
Yes.
Supervisor Halbig?
Yes.
Supervisor Gangemi?
Yes.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
And President Miller?
Yes. Okay, the next resolution that we have before us is Resolution 1113, and that is a resolution of Sun and Lake Sebring Improvement District to award bid 1111 on the construction of the golf course greens. Board discussion.
Make a motion we approve Resolution 1113.
Yeah, I'll second that quickly. I keep forgetting that. Okay, now we have board discussion.
I'm having a hard time with my ear today. So, this is for the
award the bid.
Award the bid
for the greens conversion.
This is for
not for the grass or anything. It's for the construction part of it. Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's construction of the greens.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I've got a question, Ron. I know you probably didn't expect these numbers. Maybe you did. I don't know, to come in like this. But are you comfortable with this Harstein Golf Inc.? That's the outfit? Is that the outfit that did the 9 holes on Turtle a few years back?
To my knowledge, we weren't here at that time when the 9 was done, but I believe Highlands Golf did do that renovation.
This is the same guy, but a different.
I'm not. I know the Highlands Golf name came in on the proposal. I'm not sure if Jeff Harstein. I don't know if he's here in the audience today or not, but. Oh, you are. You might be able to speak to it if you had involvement in that project or not. But since we've been here, we have not worked with Highlands Golf. If that.
I guess okay. I know when that happened before, the green work seemed to be good enough, but the rest of the course was really torn up by the equipment going back and forth, and that never was fixed. I think we should have held your feet to the fire a little bit on that one, but it was torn up pretty bad along the fringes of the fairways and whatever. And I know the timeline. We're really fighting the timeline. And if you don't think you can do it, you think you can do it because you've already you priced it. But we're on a tight string here, and we have to, we got a factory. You
have to get up to the podium, please.
We got a factory we got to operate, and we can't do it without parts. And that's basically the way I'm looking at it, and at least in the environment that I came out of. But we need to have you say that you think you can do it. I know the weather, inclement weather could affect it, but I mean, if you're going to use every effort and every, I mean, I don't know what your schedule is. This probably happened pretty quick for you. I don't know what kind of backlog you got or anything else. But if you don't think you can do it, or at least if you think you can do it, we need to know it.
Well, it is a fast timeline, and over the last 35 years, probably half the people in Avon Park who are unemployed work for me. You even have some employees here that work for you that work for me. And as far as getting qualified people to do this quickly, I don't have a problem with that at all. So, we'll work 7 days a week. Can't control the weather, of course. But, I definitely think we can pull this off. We can work daylight to dark, just like your proposal said. And I wouldn't have submitted a bid if I didn't think that I could do it. Living right here, that's the last thing I would need is, mud in my face. So, yes, I think I can do it.
I didn't think of this, but someone mentioned it to me that since this is under $100,000, you don't have to supply get a performance bond. Is that the case, or is there any way we can get a performance bond?
Well, you can get a performance bond, but of course, that's additional money for you guys. Right. They're not free by any means.
Mr. Halbig, the attorney and I discussed this yesterday.
Okay.
We normally don't require a performance bond under $100,000, and the way this contract is set up, we have the best performance bond of all. It's lump sum payment at the end of the project.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's my main question is the timeline, and the fact that you've got people lined up to do the job, you got the equipment lined up to do the job, you got the ability to do the job.
Yeah,
we got to have a good job.
I've been doing this for a long time.
He left it out.
Okay, thank you. Frank, any comments?
Yes. Was that Jeff Hartstein that was talking?
Yes.
Okay, well, I know Jeff personally, and I know Rodney Davis, okay? They used to own Highlands Golf, and they're a reputable company. They've done work for us, they've done some good stuff, and they've done some stuff that wasn't so good, like the ninth green on Deer, okay? They modified that green, they expanded it, and we've been having trouble growing grass there ever since. I think we should go with the local company if we can, but we need an absolute assurance that we get a first-class job. Things are tough right now, and we don't need anybody cutting corners when they do these things. They got the low bid, and I would really like them to have it, but we need an assurance that if something goes wrong, they'll come back and fix it.
Any comments? Mr. Harrison?
Well, if there is a problem, Frank, I live right here, not far away, so I can respond very quickly. I think there's a few other things that aren't in my contract that, are more of a concern would be, the fumigation. That's a big item here as far as sterilizing your soil. Fumigation, and then the Champions grass. These are things I don't have control over. And I'm sure they have their guarantees that go along with that. But as far as any of the work that I do, such as, cutting the sod and moving the dirt around and the soil and things like that, sure, I can stand behind that. But there's things that happen beyond what I do that may be a little more of a concern. But like I say, they probably have their guarantees that go with it, so... But that's not in my scope of work.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Your work is really, in terms of renovation, it's all up front anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, my type of work is really the basic stuff. I mean, I'm cutting sod and I'm regrading and rototilling and getting the right percentages for the new grass that you're putting on these greens. I can do all that, correctly, but there are, the grass and the fumigation are very, very important to this project. So, but they have their guarantees, I'm sure, that they'll stand behind.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mr. President?
I'm just wondering, I mean, you guys...
Excuse me, just Diane.
In paragraph 15 of the proposed contract with Harstein, you do have warranties. The work is warranted for a period of 1 year, and the company will come in and fix any defective work. If the fix is insufficient, deemed to be insufficient, then Harstein is agreeing to pay, according to the proposed contract, to pay for the fix, and you can have it done by somebody else. So you have a 1 year warranty on any of the
so
work
what you're saying is all the elements are in place
that's correct.
For protection. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
I was just wondering, I mean, you guys have all commented on the fact that there are several golf courses in the area that have done all this reconstruction, or done reconstruction in new greens. Were you involved in any of those, or no? I mean, for instance, the Country Club did theirs, right? I just wonder if you were involved in any of the other.
Well, I built the Country Club of Sebring in '77 and built their second nine in '93. They chose to do Champion No-Till, which some of these greens will be done like they did, and you brought me in to do actually the other 12 greens, which are a little bit different than the no-till, but I was not involved in the redo of the greens at Country Club Sebring.
Yeah, and Highlands.
They didn't need a contractor like myself.
Oh,
to
they
do
didn't,
it.
and Highlands didn't
They
either.
did it in-house.
Oh.
I just have a couple of questions. Number one is, if you're going to use the Champion grass, and is there any stipulation from Champion that they are totally responsible for putting it in? And if you come in as a subcontractor, are they going to be able to say, you know what, we didn't put it in. That's your problem, and you deal with it. I'm just concerned with going with contractors, subcontractor, and the main thing I'm concerned about is the timeline.
Well, they're not a sub to me. They'll be working directly with Ron.
I understand, but the product is coming from Champion that we're going to use maybe.
Right. Correct. The Champion turf, there's a warranty similar to the one. It's a 1 year. If we have a problem, 1 year, they stand behind their work. One thing nice about Champion, what you're saying is, after Jeff gets his work completed, after the fumigation is done, and there's one company that does this fumigation work, once that's done, they come in and they actually sprig it themselves. It's not Jeff's crew or our crew doing the installation of the sprigs, and that's part of why they guarantee the work, because they're the ones putting it down. There's a very strict agronomic growing plan that David will follow to the T to make sure that this is very successful.
Supervisor
And what if
Jimmy.
it's not? What do we do then?
Supervisor
we have two
Jimmy.
major tournaments coming up.
Sir?
And we have two major tournaments coming up.
Supervisor, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you have a separate contract with Champion. Champion is not a sub of Harstein, and you have the same warranty provisions in that contract that Champion is directly warranting to the board for 1 year. And again, they'll come back within that year and fix whatever's wrong. If they can't do it, then they're going to recompensate you. They're going to compensate you for the fix. So you have a 1 year warranty directly from Champion.
I understand Gene's concern, because what will happen is it's a he said, she said situation after it's done. Champion says you screwed up, you say they screwed up. I mean, and it doesn't matter. I mean, we're going to have to work it out. One of you would have to pay for the warranty, but that doesn't help us in getting golf played at this course. So I understand his concern. I guess it's a risk we have to take, but there is a little bit of concern. I mean, just having the warranty really doesn't get us out of the woods. I mean, because we could be arguing for 6 months whose fault it was, and nobody's being able to play golf on these greens again. So that's one thing. And from the last meeting, I too am concerned about this timeline. Although I did have a lengthy conversation with Kitson, and they assured me, and that when we referenced those memos, I had the same concern. I'm reading memos, and we made a 180-degree turn, and I'm going, what's the problem here? What's the change? Well, I guess it relates to the sprigs. They weren't able to get the sprigs before when they made those recommendations, and now they can. So that does help us out somewhat in meeting some time frames. So I kind of was a little relieved with that. So, but I am concerned as he is about that issue.
Ron, I'll ask again, you're comfortable with this?
With the process, yes.
And the schedule?
The schedule is tight, I mean, Jeff just gave his word that he's going to, we're allowing them to work dusk till dawn. It is a tight schedule, but, at some point we have to, trust the people we hire. This is the first time that I'll be working with Jeff, and look forward to it. And we all want a 110% job done, and that's what we expect. And
one more question. Item 3, the price. The owner shall pay to the contractor the sum of $50,000, and then it goes on saying, subject only to adjustment for any extras or charges. I don't know that that's very specific. I mean, if you work 7 hours a day, are we picking up all the extra charges? Or, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day? Shouldn't that be more specific?
That's the other contract.
That's a champion contract.
Oh, that's a champion contract? Oh, okay. Well, I thought they both said that. No? Yeah, they do. 96, and one says, they both say that.
Right. You had a unit. Ron, speak to the unit price bid on the sod that was in the.
Sure.
I think that's what this clause is referring to.
Yeah, we outlined the construction area that's going to be disturbed. If, for example, if Jeff doesn't disturb the whole 83,000 square feet of area, there's a deduction from his contract, meaning if we don't have to purchase all this sod that Sun and Lake will be purchasing adjacent to the green, all the tie-in, then there's a reduction off of the unit price being installed. So that's what that means.
So that's the only subject to the change. It has nothing to do with any additional costs that he incurs?
No, this is a fixed price contract. Now, if we ask him to do something else that's not part of the original bid, sure, you'd compensate him for that, but we're not anticipating that.
You have a change order provision in there. Everything has to be in writing.
Right.
Any further comments from the board?
I'm just concerned with the timeline, because 5 days isn't an awful lot. We get some tough rain, we'll be pushed really close to losing those 2 tournaments.
Well, the big timeline is the time Jeff starts his construction and the time the sprigs go down. Once the sprigs are down and they're somewhat established, we want it to rain. We can't foresee if there's going to be a natural disaster. I mean, knock on wood, we're not going to have anything, but there is some risk involved, but we feel confident this project can get completed. Jeff's standing here. He says he can get his work done. We have the fumigation timeline scheduled. Once that is awarded, that'll go into effect, and we also have the sprig set. So we have all the things in place to be successful. There's some external factors that, we can't control. If we could control them, we would definitely stand here and tell you we could, but we can't.
Is your timeline just as it's outlined in that memo? May 23rd or 25th is when the sprigs go down?
It's the week of May 23rd, correct.
Right, and from my conversation, they indicated that normally would take about... So, by May 23rd, we should be putting the sprigs down. So that 5-day window is kind of over with at that point.
Yeah, but the problem is that Champion Grass has a 20-day period in which they come out and look at and say, yeah, these sprigs are dead, we got to change them. You've lost 20 days. And then you don't know if the ones that are going to go in are going to make it. So now you're getting closer and closer to the August Big 2 tournaments. That's my concern.
How do sprigs get lost? What's the problem?
If they die out. If they die out. I mean, you're planting in the middle of summer. Really, it's hot. So, I'm not, a soil analyst or anything like that, but I'm just looking at the timeline in here. That if they come back and say, well, we have 20 days in which to say those things are alive or dead. So that pushes you to June 16th. And then what happens after 20 days? They don't work. I'm just trying to throw everything that could be everything could happen to go wrong, that might go wrong, and we have the possibility of losing two tournaments.
Well, Gene, we can discuss this until the cows come home. The only way that you can express a finite opinion is vote for it or against it when it comes up for a vote.
Well, I like to say one thing. We'd be under the same scheduling constraints next year that we are this year. If we started early next year, we'd have to shut one of those golf courses down during the busy season.
You shut it down the 1st of April. What are you going to lose? Most people leave here by Easter. Okay.
Yeah, and that was kind of what my thought process was too, because we're safer and they recommended April 12th of next year. I mean, there's really not nearly as much risk next year if we did this. I mean, if we just say we're going to do it, and we do it. It also gives us opportunity through the budget process to work through this. So I was leaning that way. But after talking with Kitson, I felt more comfortable with possibly taking this risk. So I certainly understand where Supervisor Gangemi's coming from, because to me, the sensible, business-like, rational decision to make, and not the emotional one, which is what we're tending to do sometimes here, is to be very cautious. We are also expending $250,000, and just get it in gear and organize it and start it next year. But I'm not sure. I mean, I understand where he's coming from.
Further comments from the board? Open it up for public discussion. Bill?
It's clear this is going to happen. But Mrs. Johnson made a statement that I would like to read an email for and challenge that statement.
Speak up, please, Bill.
Yeah, I'd like to read an email that I think challenges that statement. It's from Ron Wunderling to Michael Wright, or April 5th. After speaking with Dean Wachowski, our corporate agronomist for Kitson and Partners, it is our recommendation we hold off the greens renovation project on Deer Run to 2012. Below I have listed some of the reasons we feel this is best for Sun and Lake to hold off this project. We feel the greens not being ready for a fireman's tournament on August 12th. The fireman's event cannot be rescheduled to a later date. We would also risk losing the Saratoga Junior and Adult the following weeks. There's nothing mentioned about Spriggs here not being available. This went back and forth a while until this email was sent. Let me see if I can find anything. It was from Dave Halbig to Mr. Rippey, a carbon copy to Michael Wright. Mike, I just received the memo. I'm one pissed off camper. Doing Turtle Run before Deer Run is a pacifier. I believe Kitson took their eye off the ball on this one. I will never agree to do Turtle Run before Deer. It does not need it. Turtle Run does not need it. All the carping has been conditions of on the conditions of Deer Run greens, not Turtle. I believe the lack of attention on a local level has, in my opinion, caused a big problem. P.S. I also received a phone call before I received the memo from a resident asking if I could support doing Turtle Run greens and Deer Run next year. So obviously someone other than the board member was aware of the pending compromise. By the compromise, there's a letter here on that compromise too, where they don't recommend doing Deer Run this year. That's of April 7th. They don't recommend it. Now all of a sudden, they've had a change of heart. I think they went and seen their chiropractor after these meetings were over. But, so obviously someone other than a board member was aware of the pending compromise. This is also a real problem with me. They're recommending it shouldn't be done. Are you surprised they came around at the end? When you get your arm twisted, the customer is always right. But I want to go on for something else. We help elect 3 of these people on this board. We help elect 3 people on this board. Many of us in here. We donated money, we worked for them. I never expected that we would agree on everything. It would be unrealistic to expect that. But I did expect that we would do what is best for this district in the long run. Now, we are taking a chance here. I hope this works out. I am not for this to fail, because we all live here. But all I want to say is, if this fails, I want the board members who stand up and vote for this to take responsibility for it. I don't want to hear later that, oh, this is so-and-so, talk to Ron Wunderling, talk to this. I want them to stand up when this is over, and if this goes under, to stand up like men and say, we voted for this and we made a mistake. Now, we'll all pay the price. But I expect that. I don't expect any slipping and sliding. Thank you.
Bill, listen, I've got big shoulders, and I'll tell you what, I'm the guy that pushed the button on this, and I'll take full responsibility. If it fails, you know who to blame. But in an environment that in the environment that I came from, if something's broke, you fix it. You don't sit there and talk about it for another year and then fix it. You're going to fix it anyway. The timeline's the same whether you're going to do it this year or next year. You know, it needs to be done, and I hope this board approves it.
Tom Costi, resident. Everything that you do with regard to a business or an organization like Sun Lakes Golf and Country Club has got a certain element of risk and reward. And I agree, we're taking somewhat of a risk in doing this project, starting it at this date. But the alternative was to start it earlier next year. And something that I haven't heard referred to yet, Kitson projects over 8,000 rounds of golf in our facility during the month of April. And if next year we shut down the month of April in order to do Deer Run, we shut down half the facility here, and we lose half of those 8,000 rounds, they average about $35 a round of income for the district. We lose 4,000 rounds, that's $140,000. To me, that's a pretty good bet. Maybe we'll get lucky enough this year to get the job done and not have to put in not only that $140,000, but the additional inflation of things like fuel for trucking, fertilizer costs, and et cetera, that we would be buying at higher prices next year. And also the money that we would lose from lost memberships and outside players that come in here. Also the maintenance of overseeding and et cetera on dead greens for winter play this year. So to me, it's well worth the risk.
Rick Hulbert, resident. I have to agree with Tom Costi.
You speak up, please, Rick.
Is that better? Yes. I have to agree with Tom Costi. We can't afford to wait one more year to do these greens. I have talked to people in the club. I've talked to outsiders. And I've even talked to one of the Rangers, and he told me there was a group that came in here of 32 people that come here every year, and they refuse to come back until we have our course back in order. 32 people. That's food, booze, and golf. We need to make sure that our course is in top-notch shape. I have a group that I played with on Tuesdays, and the guys refuse to play this year because they can go to Sebring Country Club, Harder Hall, and these other courses a lot cheaper, and the greens are in much better shape. And they refuse to pay resident fees that are this high. So we got to look at that. You want to bring people in here, you want more rounds of golf, but you can't keep socking it to the golfer when he comes in here, another $1 here, another $1 there, and before long you price yourself right out of the market. So please consider getting this done, and let's do it and get it over with and quit arguing about everything. Thank you.
Joack, negative side. All right, I wanted to get a laugh out of somebody. First off here, I'd like to find out, Jeff, we had a talk yesterday. I called you on the phone there, and you told me that Champion grass was available in other ports. It's not just the one company that has Champion grass. Is that correct?
No, Champion is the sole source. The Celebration that you're talking about.
Well, we was talking about Champion, and that's what I wrote down. So if it's Celebration...
Let's talk to the whole group, please.
Yeah. Okay, Dick, we'll let that one go. All right. Now, Jeff here is going to run himself in a spot. And the thing of it is, has any soil tests been made on that areas that's going to be redecided and everything? That is the number one thing that should have been done before anything's brought up. Can anybody answer it?
No.
Come on, Dave.
David Bell, I'm the golf course superintendent here at Sun Lake. And yes, we have done soil testing on our greens. We've done extra testings along with soil property testings, and we feel confident that all of our current green structures will be more than satisfactory to this project.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to find on that. Okay. Boy. He's talking about working from sun up to sundown. He can't do it. When the summer sliding time comes in there, he has to start at 7 o'clock because of the noise ordinance there. He can start at 7 o'clock, but he cannot start earlier than that. Because otherwise he's going to be violating, and then we may get in trouble with the county. Tom Kostick made a statement here that projected players of something about $8,000. Tom, that projected
8,000 rounds, Joe.
8,000 rounds. Well, I'm thinking dollars because that's what it's costing us. But projecting don't mean it's going to be, but it could be and it may not be. Now, the thing of it is, 2 years ago, Kitson came to this meeting, or to the board, and stated the fact that they had trouble with deer. Why wasn't it picked up 2 years ago and started something done on it at that time? Ron made the statement, Bill Jackson covered it there, so I'm not going to cover it. Now, the thing of it is, I would love to have this thing done if you got time. You don't have time. I've been in Florida for 40 years. I've been in construction for over 40 years. And, brother, if rain season comes in, you're going to be in a world of hurt. And I would rather see you go and hold it, get these tournaments that's scheduled in here, let them play their game, tell them about what you got in mind of doing for the next season. They ain't going to walk away. Where are they going to find another two-course deal at? They want the two courses, from what I understand. I'm not a golfer. I don't know much about any of that stuff out there. But since Thursday, I've been on the computer and calling California all over the place, checking this stuff out because I want it done right. The old board never did anything right. The new board, I've got respect for you. Do it right. Put it off until we can get the time to do it and do it good. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Rex, I knew you'd come after me.
Not much left to be said. Rex Bond, good morning. No stories this morning, no alligator tails or anything like that, Jim. I just wanted to say that this gentleman here doesn't know me from nothing. But
Rex, could you speak up, please?
Good. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think the system is improving, by the way. It's better than it was last week. But they've been here a long time, and with Rodney Davis, I believe, was one of the folks. There's a great big heavy fella. I was scared of him, never had anything to do with him, but he knew what he was doing. But they've been renovating and sodding golf courses all over the state of Florida and some out of the state. So they're not people that's going to come in here today and leave tomorrow. So I just wanted to say that I hope you would give them consideration. They're local, they're capable, or they have been in the past, and I think they could do us a good job. Oh, one other thing, Mr. LeBozo. I hope, and I'm not fussing at you, you're a pretty good fellow. There is a clause in that 11-12 that bothers me, and it says the district desires to continue to provide the championship quality golf course facilities for district residents and members of the golf course. We're a public golf course. We need to include that. It'd be very important to be sure that we include the public in the resolution.
Which one is that, Rex?
11-12. Jim, do you have it in front of you?
We've already passed that one.
Okay, well, you passed it. I'm sorry I'm late, but anyhow, I still think it's a bad thing not to include the public.
That was a good point. Any further public comment?
I think the last time was about 5 years ago.
You want to state your name, please?
Can you hear that?
Yes. Your name?
My name is Gail Wade. The last time I was up here was about 5 years ago, and or maybe it was 10 years ago, I don't know, and the president of the board says, Gail, you've got 3 minutes to say what you're going to say. So I hadn't been up here since, but I have got a lot of admiration for the past board, the present board, and I've been here since 1985. And the past, when Kitson came in here, told Ron Wonderling at that time that a magician couldn't grow grass on those push-up greens out on Deer Run. I don't care how good you are. Kitson has done a magnificent job of just getting it where it's at now. But it needs to be redone, and whenever you've got people, competent people, like Kitson, and I'm sure the contractor over here, and David Bell, who's saying that the job can be done and be done on time, I think we need to say, let's get on with it. And I'd hope that the board would waste no time in moving forward and get Deer Run fixed. It's been a mess. That's all I've got to say, and thanks.
Thank you, Gil. Frank, you still there?
Yes, I am. My ears getting sore. I'm watching snow flurries come down. Hope you enjoy the weather down there.
Well, David was getting concerned.
I've heard comments. I've captured some of them, not all of them. I can hear the board very well. As far as the public comments, it's hard to hear. But I picked up some of the vibes, and I see some positives, some negatives, okay? I choose to be an optimist. We need to go with this. Let's do it. Let's say that everything is going to go smooth, okay? So we may run into some glitch, but so what? We can overcome them. We need to do this, okay? We probably should have started 3 months ago, but unfortunately we didn't. So now we're at this situation, at this juncture, we need to go ahead with it.
Okay, thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Any other board comments? I have one. The thing that concerns me the most are the comments we're getting from those outside of our membership in our community. And now they're being documented. This group that Supervisor Hallbeck referred to took the time and trouble to write down their comments about how bad our course was. And I have to agree with the people that point out that it takes no time at all before you go from having a good reputation to having a course or an environment that people don't want to come to. And besides the written comments, I understand there's been a number of other comments made throughout the clubhouse. There was a group from Tampa that said essentially the same thing. So there's no question we have a problem. There's no question we have a tight schedule. But it seems to me that we're going to have to take our chances and go ahead. But do we have any other comments? Mike?
Yes, sir. Before you vote on this, Mr. McClure and I went back and forth yesterday afternoon on amendments on the contract, and we discussed performance bond, no performance bond. If we put a performance bond in, it's just going to drive up the cost of the project, and I feel like we're adequately covered by the lump sum payment. And I'd like for you to ask you to amend your motion to strike Clause 18, which is the performance bond, in the contract that we gave to you this morning that we received late last night.
Any comments on that?
It's actually in both contracts. This is kind of a form contract that we modify from time to time, and it does have the performance bond in it.
Gene, are you speaking to that?
How much is the performance bond? If we did it roughly, do you have an idea? How much would it cost for a performance bond?
I'll defer to the contractor.
But I think roughly, it's going to be 5%. Up to the first 500,000. So you're looking at least $5,000.
It's going to be $5,000 for a performance bond.
That's about right.
I believe you, Mr. Rebozo, said that we were well covered in terms of our protection.
As far if I understand it, it's a lump sum payment when the job is done,
right? And
you have a 1-year warranty. So yes, I think you're pretty well covered.
Dave, do you want to amend your motion?
Do we have to withdraw the motion? I withdraw the. Did I make the motion to start with?
Yes.
Okay, then I withdraw the motion.
And I seconded it. I withdraw a second.
I just have a couple more questions. Are we going to need any special mower to cut this grass?
No, we have all the equipment that we currently have is more than adequate to maintain this turf.
Okay, so we have carbide tip blades to do all this stuff?
Yes.
Go
Okay.
ahead and make another motion.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve. No, to amend to amend.
Approve the contract and without clause number 18.
Performance bond contract.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Gene, do you have further comments?
I'm just concerned about the timeline, and I hate to spend $243,000 and then have to wait and lose other things. So I think that's just my recommendation for whatever it's worth.
Do we need a public comment on the amended resolution?
You should, yes.
Do we have any public comment?
Coming back. Great.
Joack, for the record. While we're amending this thing here, how come the E-Verify wasn't put in there like it was supposed to be, Michael? That should be amended as well and added to the contract, on all the contracts.
Clause 25.
I'm sorry?
It's clause 25.
Paragraph 25, the E-Verify language is in the contract.
It is in there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're bringing it back to the board. Any further discussion?
I've got one comment. We're not risking $243,000. The main risk is this thing might take longer to grow in than we thought. That's the main risk. So it's the timeline as far as growing in period. It's not going to wash away or whatever. So that's my opinion. I think we need to just get it done, and we won't be talking about it for another year before we get it done and have to go through this again.
Okay, Jane, let's call the roll.
Supervisor Gangemi?
No.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Halbig?
Yes.
Supervisor Guglielmi?
Yes.
And President Miller?
Yes. Okay, our final item on the agenda for today is Resolution 1114. That's a resolution regarding sole source purchase of champion dwarf Bermuda grass for the Deer Run Golf Course Greens Conversion Project. I think I can remember. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Striking clause, or paragraph 18.
Make the motion striking the requirement for the bond.
Okay.
It's number 18 in the contract. If you'll make it ahead of time, we won't have to amend.
Okay, we do it. It's got the same clause? Okay. Then I'll make a motion that we strike paragraph 18 or section 18 out of this.
I think what you're intending is to make a motion to approve, to adopt the resolution less paragraph 18.
Okay. Correct. Make a motion to approve resolution 1114, omitting paragraph 18.
Got it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any overview presentation by staff?
I'm going to defer to Mr. Wonderling on sole source, why this particular grass was chosen, and I think based on conversations he and I have had, it may not be bad to outline why you chose this particular grass.
Champion Turf is for
the record, is David Bell, our superintendent.
Yes. For the record, Champion Turf is an ultra-dwarf Bermuda grass that is a much more aggressive growing grass than Tiff-dwarf, the current grass that we have. From a playing standpoint, you have much better ball roll and ball speeds, and it's a lot better performing grass than the Tiff-dwarf. We did last year do a test trial on our putting green across the street next to the fire station on the whole no-till process, and it was very successful. And from all the comments that we've had from all of the members, everybody enjoys it, likes it, and is impressed with it. So, and the type of construction project that we're going to be doing with the no-till, it's proven in the industry that the Champion Dwarf putting grass is by far superior in this process, in the no-till process.
Okay, thank you, David.
David, I've got a question. And I looked at the website yesterday on this grass. The people that sell this grass or make this grass, and it's used all the way from Kentucky down to including state of Florida.
The Champion Turf it's been planted over 400 golf courses over 16 of the southern states.
It's specific for stem speed of 10. Let me ask you a question. Can that be adjusted like this other grass? I know it's meant to be cut short, but can that be an 8 typically without damaging the grass? I'm just thinking about the speed of the greens versus the undulation situation we've got. I know we're flattening some of them out, but 10's pretty fast, and I mean, but Can it vary?
Yes, it can vary. You can adjust. You can play with the mowing heights.
Okay.
It can withstand severely low mowing heights down to even below 1/8 of an inch, and we can also maintain it. The putting green that's currently across the street, we're mowing it. We're currently right now at 140, which is being mowed at the same height as all the other greens. But it can withstand the lower cutting heights, and that's really it likes that better than the higher heights. But you can adjust the heights to adjust the speed, putting speed.
Okay, thank you, David. Further comments from the board?
Do we ever try any of that verdigrass? Have you ever looked into that versus the Champion?
The Mini Verde?
Yes.
The Mini Verde is a newer variety of an ultra dwarf that's on the market. It hasn't been around as long as the Champion, which has been around since 1995. So there's not a lot of research on it. And it specifically, it's not recommended to be used in the no-till process, which is the process that we're going through.
Okay. Well, looking at the Champion grass, it seems that it's used on the west coast of Florida and the east coast of Florida. There's only one other place, I think, Country Club of Sebring brought it in, and Southern golf course up at Lake Wales in that area got it.
Southern Dunes and
Dunes
and Country Club of Sebring did the no-till process this previous summer. Two other courses in our county are going to be doing it this summer. Highlands Ridge South course is in the process that we're going through right now, along with Harder Hall. We'll be doing it after, I believe, a few weeks after us.
I have a question for Ron. With Kitson buying a large tract of property and they're going to put some golf courses in, are they going to put in the Champion grass?
Are you referring to the place we purchased in Naples?
Yes.
We are not. That property is wall-to-wall seaside past Fallon, which is a very good turf. It's very high to maintain. We spend over $2 million on our maintenance budget just to maintain that 18-hole property. So it's a different level in terms of what we have there. So we won't be replacing it there. But Champion is something we will use at other properties. We have it at one of our properties in Fort Myers and also our property in Jacksonville. So.
Difference in temperature between Jacksonville and Sebring. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Rebozo, are you, as our attorney, satisfied that we've met the sole source requirements?
Yes, as I understand it, this is a patented product that you really can't get anywhere else. And so that basically allows you to go to sole source as opposed to bidding it out. So you're fine, yes.
Okay. Further comment from the board? Frank? Well, we'll see if he's there when it comes to the vote. Okay, we have public comment.
Chuck Perfetti, resident. I only have this one comment. I've been listening to a lot of the discussion about the Champions, and I assume it's Champions Bermuda, Champions Grass, or what have you. It is a wonderful grass to play on. It's going to make a great golf course. The only concern I have is, what about the things that lead up to it, such as the fairways, the rough, the areas that are basically bare spots? During the 4-month period or so that we're down, or 3 months, I hope we intend to do some work on that and clean it up. And that doesn't cost a lot of money to go after the weeds and the other things that are out there. If we're going to have a Champion golf course, then let's make it all the wave just by simply adding a little extra work to it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck.
Joe Eck again. Dick, I got one concern here. They're refrigerating this grass to come in. What happens if this stuff gets overfroze where they go to plant it and it dies out?
All right, please. He's got a right to say what he thinks. That's a question for Ron, Joe, not for me.
I was just talking to him there, and he was trying to explain it, so I want him to explain it.
David Bell. Part of the whole refrigeration process is once the grass is cultivated into sprigs in Bay City, Texas, part of the process in transferring it to Florida, because it is a long distance, they do bring it in refrigerated trucks. What part of that process does, it'll actually put the grass in a dormancy state, which like many of us know that during the wintertime the grass doesn't die, it just basically kind of hibernates. And that enables the grass to be able to make the long journey. And then once we do plant it, and then we start watering it and fertilizing it, then it comes out of dormancy and then begins to grow. But basically, the refrigeration process is to be able for the grass to survive the trip in a dormant state.
Then, Dave, on that there, if it's coming in here, it's going to be under shock when it comes out here and gets into the hot weather. Would the shock kill that out?
No, it wouldn't be it's not anything different than our normal grass that we have when it's coming out of dormancy. And the weather, it's a warm season grass, and it does thrive in the warmer weather. And just like in the springtime, when our grass is dormant and when it gets to the optimum temperatures to break dormancy, it is not under any stress.
Further public comment? I'll bring it back to the board. Frank, are you back?
Yes, I'm still here.
Welcome.
To do it. I mean, the grass, it's a sole source. Why are we even talking about it? That's the only place we can get it, so let's go with it.
Okay. Any other comments from the board? Call the roll, please, Jane.
Supervisor Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Halbig?
Yes.
Supervisor Guglielmi?
Yes.
Supervisor Gangemi?
Yes.
And President Miller?
Yes.
That's it.
Before we conclude this morning's session, Mike, on our agenda for, what is it, the 28th? 29th. We have two further items regarding the renovation. Is that correct?
Yes, it's for the fumigation and for purchase of Bermuda sod. Or Bermuda grass, yes.
Okay, so that's just to advise you that there will be further discussion at that time on those two subjects. Do you have a comment,
David?
David?
I'll be here on the 29th, but I don't think I need to get on the phone.
No, that's up to you.
I won't be here the 29th as well.
Dick, can I make a comment?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for their indulgence, and I'll tell you one thing. We need a new sound system. The sound system there is lousy.
You think so, Frank?
We need something. I could hear the board very well, but as far as the rest of them, I pick up pieces and bits and try to fill it in between. The board is fairly, I can hear them pretty good, but the rest of it, the sound system is bad. So, but anyways, I'm going to sign off, and thank you again for your indulgence.
That subject of the
I'm watching the snowfall here, so
lots of luck.
Sunshine.
Lots of luck. By the way, that subject on the sound system will be coming up on the 29th.
Frank, is he on the landline? He's still on the landline?
I think he's done. Why?
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Paying the bill. Mother's paying the bill. Long distance bill.
Okay. Is there any other further comments?
You've addressed what was on the agenda, so...
Okay. Meeting adjourned.
Hey, Chuck.